Good morning, class. Good morning, class. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning. यहाँ लाइन गइरहेको थियो कुरिरहेको अब चाहिँ डाटाबाट भयो नि भन्नु पर्ला भनेको जस्ट इट came here. Now we were reading how to write cause and effect. Oh no, where were we yesterday? Page number, can you say me? Compare and contrast, no? So structuring a comparison and contrast essay, is it? Page 205. Structuring a compare and contrast essay. Is it, class? Let's turn in page number 205. Everyone, 205. How can we write comparison and contrast essay? Okay, so let's see. Are you ready now? Structuring a comparison and contrast essay. How can we write comparison and contrast essay? Before we read, how can you find out what type of essay is the essay which will be given to us, and to be a comparison and contrast essay, what characters should an essay have? Now, like every other type of essay in this book, a comparison and contrast essay has an introduction. यसमा के हुन्छ? Comparison and contrast essay has an introduction. योसँग introduction हुनु पर्यो. Several body paragraphs. Yes, different paragraphs should be with it. And conclusion. Within the body of your paper, you can use either two basic comparisons. In the body of our paper, means our essay, we should use two basic comparisons and contrast strategies, subject by subject or point by point. Subject अनुसार अथवा point अनुसार we should use it. As you might expect, each organizational strategy has advantages and disadvantages. While writing comparison and contrast essay, we need to combine the advantages and disadvantages over there. We need to include advantages and disadvantages over there. This we need to have. यो कुरा तपाईहरुले दिमागमा राख्नु पर्यो. In general, you should use subject by subject comparison. हैन, जे हो त्यहीसँग कम्पेयर गर्ने भनेर हिजो हामीले पढ्यौं. माइनर क्यारेक्टर छ भने अर्कोको पनि माइनर क्यारेक्टरलाई राख्ने, हैन. नोभलको केसमा भनेमा हामीले अब यहाँ हामीले इन्भाइरोमेन्ट पोल्युसनको कुरा गर्छौं, साइन्स एन्ड टेक्नोलोजिकल डेभलपमेन्ट दुवैको कम्पेयर गर्ने टाइममा यो दुवै आर्टिफिशियल भयो, हैन. एउटाले अर्कोलाई यसरी असर गर्यो भनेर हामीले कम्पेयर गर्नुपर्ने हुन्छ. When your purpose is to emphasize overall similarities or differences, when our purpose will be emphasized for overall similarities or differences, and you should use point by point comparison. No, हरेक point को comparison गर्नुपर्ने हुन्छ. When your purpose is to emphasize individual points of similarity or differences, हाम्रो purpose के हुनुपर्छ? Emphasize individual point of similarities or differences. हरेक कुराहरुको सिमिल्यारिटिज र डिफरेन्सेसहरुको इन्डिभिजुअल पोइन्टमा जानुपर्ने हुन्छ भनेको वान बाइ वान युजिङ सब्जेक्ट बाइ सब्जेक्ट कम्प्यारिजन हो हरेक सब्जेक्ट र सब्जेक्टलाई कसरी कम्पेयर गर्ने त In a subject by subject comparison, you essentially write a separate essay about each subject. हरेक सब्जेक्टहरुको बारेमा हामीले we need to write the separate essay, but you discuss the same point for both subjects. Use your basics for comparison to guide your selections of points. Oh, comparison, selection of point लाई select गर्ने र comparison गर्ने. First, you need to plan for this and arrange these points in some logical order. Logic लगाएर order मा राख्ने one after another. Usually in order of their increasing significance. The following informal outlines illustrates a subject by subject comparison. See it. त्यहाँ हेर्नु subject by subject comparison छ introduction मा. Thesis statement, despite the fact that television and radio र radio को चाहिँ comparison भयो यहाँ. Distinctly different media, they use similar strategies to appeal to their audiences. Television audiences, point 1, mean, point 2, women, point 3, children. अब audience, radio audience मा mean, women, children. उनीहरुमा कस्तो असर पर्छ त दुवैको त्यसलाई चाहिँ हामी कम्पेयर गर्ने भयौं. Conclusion, restatement of thesis or view of key points. हामीले conclusion मा के लेख्ने भने thesis statement जे लेख्यौं त्यसको मुख्य कुरालाई लास्टमा लगेर फेरि जोइन गर्ने काम गर्ने अर त्यसलाई इन्डाइरेक्टली फेरि लेख्ने. That is what the conclusion will be. Subject by subject comparisons are most appropriate for short subject by subject comparison. हामीले कसरी गर्छौं त subject by subject comparison. Subject by subject comparison are most essential for तपाईहरुको यो बुक छैन भने मोबाइलमा एकचोटी तेर्छ हुनुस् ल. Subject by subject comparisons are most appropriate for short, छोटो, uncomplicated papers. In longer papers, where you might make many points about each subject. Longer paper मा हरेक सब्जेक्ट को बारेमा many points you need to use. This organizational strategy demands too much of your readers. हाम्रो reader को बारेमा यसले धेरै खोज्छ. Requiring them to keep track of all your points throughout your paper. In addition, because of the length of each section, हरेक section को length ले गर्दा, your paper may seem like two completely separate essay. When we go on comparing, दुईटाको बारेमा छुट्टै छुट्टै लेखे जस्तो हुन्छ. Comparison and contrast essay लेख्दा. Because we will describe the different aspects and ways of these 2 points, 2 subjects. For longer or more complex papers, then it is often best to use point by point comparison. त्यही भएर नम्बर 1 2 चाहिँ गर्ने होइन, प्याराग्राफमा लेख्ने र हरेक पोइन्टको कम्पेरिजन प्याराग्राफमा गर्ने. Using point by point comparison. How can we use point by point comparison? In a point by point comparison, you make a point about one subject. एउटाको बारेमा point बनाउने, then follow it with a comparable point about the other. The alternating pattern continues throughout the body of our essay until all your points have been made. हाम्रो हरेक पोइन्टहरु बनाएसम्म the alternating patterns should be made over there. The following informal outline illustrates a point-by-point comparison. के गर्छ त यसले हेर्नुस् त. Here is an example. Introduction, minor character, major character, themes छ. यसलाई एक र अर्कोलाई बराबर comparison गर्यो भने point-by-point comparison हुन्छ. Remember it. Now, see it at its last. Point-by-point comparison are useful for longer, more complicated essays in which you discuss many. So, long, more complicated essay where we discuss many points. जहाँ चाहिँ हामीले धेरै पोइन्टहरुलाई एकैचोटी डिस्कस गर्नुपर्ने कन्डिसनहरु आउँछ. त्यस्तो ठाउँमा चाहिँ this point by point comparison is used. In a if you treat only one or 2 point of comparison, you should consider a subject by subject or subject by subject organization. In a point by point essay, readers can follow comparisons or contrast. Readerले comparison contrast follow गर्छन् more easily and do not have to wait several paragraphs to find out. For example, the differences between minor characters in Moby Dick and the Sea Wolf. It is just given here example which is shown before. अगाडि भनिएको छ. You can see there. To remember one page 5 who said on 3. Nevertheless, it is easy to fall into read it. यसलाई ए अगाडिकोबाटै कम्पेरिजन गरिरहेछ. यसमा तपाईले के बुझ्नु पर्यो भने पोइन्ट वाइज पोइन्ट कम्पेयर गर्नुभयो भने बेस्ट कम्पेरिजन यसै बन्छ. सबैको एउटामा कम्पेरिजन गर्ने अनि अर्को प्याराग्राफमा धेरै कुराहरू लगेर फेरि त्यहाँ कम्पेरिजन गर्ने होइन कि पहिला हामीले दुईटा मान्छेको बीचको बडी स्ट्रक्चर कम्पेयर गर्दा हिज बडी स्ट्रक्चर इज लाइक दिस एन्ड हिज इज भनेर त्यही गर्नु पर्यो के त्यसलाई राखेर पछि गर्ने होइन. Using transitions. Transitions are especially important. Pause के transitions भनेको. Transitions are especially important in comparison and contrast essay because you must supply readers with clear signals that identify individual similarities and differences. So, clear signals are used गर्ने which will identify individual similarities and differences. Without these clues, readers will have trouble following your discussion and may lose track of the significance of the point you are making. Some transitions indicating comparison and contrast are comparison र contrast. के transitions हरु हामीले त्यो use गर्नुपर्दा you can see here useful transitions हरु in comparison, in the same way, just as, so, like, likewise, similarly. Comparison मा यो ओडहरु राख्नु पर्यो हजुरहरुले अनि त्यो comparison यसै बन्छ र contrast मा चाहिँ although, but, conversely, despite, even though, however, in contrast, instead, nevertheless, nonetheless, on the contrary, on the one hand, अनि फेरि बीचमा त्यो कन्डिसन राख्ने अनि on the other hand, still, unlike, whereas, yet हैन यस्तो वर्डहरु हामीले युज गरेपछि think yourself that you are using comparison and contrast essay. You are writing comparison and contrast essay. जति यसलाई युज गर्छौं त्यति नै मैले लेखेको essay चाहिँ comparison र contrast essay हो भनेर कन्फर्म गर्न सकिन्छ. Now, longer essays frequently include transitional paragraphs. बीचमा pause हुने paragraphहरु युज हुन्छ longer essaysहरुमा. Longer essays frequently include transitional paragraphs that connect one part of an essay to another. एउटा र अर्कोलाई कनेक्सन गराउँछ. Transitional paragraph can be a single sentence that signals a shift in focus or a longer paragraph that provides a concise summary. Concise means in short. Chotkarima. Concise summary of what was said before. In either case, transitional paragraphs enable reader. के गर्छ? Transitional paragraph enable readers to pause, रोकिने, and consider what has already been said before moving on to a new subject. नयाँ सब्जेक्टमा जाँदा के भयो भनेर व्याख्या गर्ने काम पनि गर्छ. Revising a comparison and contrast essay. How can we revise comparison and contrast essay? When you revise your comparison and contrast essay, जब हामीले comparison contrast essay लाई revise गर्ने काम गर्छौं, consider the items on the revision checklist on page number 68. अगाडि page 68 पल्टाएर हेर्नुहोस्. In addition, pay special attention to the items on the following checklist. के केमा तपाईले बढी ध्यान दिनु पर्यो? हेर्नुस् त रिभिजन चेकलिस्टमा does your assignment call for comparison and contrast? अब यी सबै अगाडि हामीले जे हुनुपर्छ भनेको त्यो छ कि छैन तपाईकोमा? What basis for comparison text between two subjects you are comparing? के को आधारमा दुईटालाई तपाई कम्पेयर गर्दै हुनुहुन्छ? त्यो तपाईलाई पहिला ज्ञान हुनु पर्यो, थाहा पाउनु पर्यो. Does your essay have a clear thesis statement that identifies both the subject you are comparing and the points you are making about them. तपाईले कम्पेयर गरेको thesis statement र त्यसको बारेमा लेखेको पोइन्टहरु, are they related to or not? Do you discuss the same or similar points for both subject? दुवैलाई सिमिलर सब्जेक्ट राखेरै तपाईले कम्पेरिजन गर्नु भएको छ कि छैन? If you have written a subject by subject comparison, तपाईले subject by subject comparison लेख्नु भएको हो भने, have you included a transition paragraph that connects two sections of the essay? दुईटा प्याराग्राफलाई जोड्ने ट्रान्जिसन प्याराग्राफ लेख्नु भयो कि भएन? त्यो हुनै पर्यो. If you have written a point by point comparison, यदि point by point comparison लेख्नु भएको छ भने, have you included appropriate transitions and varied your sentence structure to indicate your shift from one point to another? Have you included transitional words and phrases that indicate whether you are discussing similar or differences? Transitional wordहरू जस्तो in comparison, like, in the same way, likewise, although, nevertheless, but यस्तो wordहरू तपाईले त्यसमा युज गरेकै हुनु पर्यो. यो चाहिँ comparison and contrast एसेको गहना हो, ornaments हो. ornament भएन भने कस्तो हुन्छ हैन? Likewise. So you need to keep in mind. Now, editing a comparison and contrast essay. Comparison र contrast essay लाई कसरी edit गर्ने त? When you edit your comparison and contrast essay, follow the guidelines on editing checklist page number 85, 88 and 90. त्यसलाई अगाडि गएर हेर्ने. 85, 88 र 90 मा जे हामीले अगाडि डिस्कस गरेको कुराहरू छ, that is what we will use while editing it. हैन? हरेक एसेहरूलाई editing and proofreading भनेर छ अगाडि हो, त्यसलाई चाहिँ हामीले एकचोटि हेर्ने राम्रोसँग. You will get more knowledge from here. Now, use a parallel structure with peer items with items in a series. Example दिएको छ, त्यसलाई तपाईले युज गर्नुस्, हेर्नुस्, read it properly. अब CDA in next page number 209. 209 पेज नम्बरमा हेर्नुस् त. एडिटिङ एन्ड चेकलिस्ट. एडिटिङ कसरी गर्ने त कम्पेरिजन एन्ड कन्ट्रास्ट एसेमा? तपाईले के याद गर्नु पर्यो भने, have you used parallel structure with parallel elements in a series? प्यारलल कुराहरू राख्नु भएको छ त, either or, but also, not only, but also, as, हैन, as, rather than, यस्तो कुराहरू राख्नु पर्यो. Have you used commas to separate three or more parallel elements in a series? तीनटा भन्दा धेरै अथवा दुईटा भन्दा धेरै आउने बित्तिकै तपाईले कमा युज गर्नु भयो कि भएन? Have you used parallel structure with peer items linked by correlative conjunction? हैन, peer itemहरु जुन correlative conjunction बाट लिंक भएको छन् तिनीहरुलाई युज भयो कि भएन? Have you used parallel structure with peer items linked by as or then? As र then use गरेर parallel items use गर्नु भयो कि भएन? Use this. And after you will use, then only it will be comparison and contrast essay. So here is an example, subject by subject comparison को example छ 209 मा, 210, 211, 212. एकदमै ध्यान दिएर पढ्नुस् है. 230 लाई पढ्ने, 14 लाई पनि पढ्ने, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 है. दिस इज योर वर्क टु स्टडी. तपाईहरुले आफै पढ्ने हो. त्यो जस्ट अगाडि हामीले डिस्कस गरेको कुराहरुलाई देयर इज द वे how we can how those points which we have read are written in practical, that is with comparison and contrast essay. Now let's see page number 227. It's Bharati. तपाईहरुले यो अगाडिको एसे पढ्नु पर्दैन है, बीए को लागि हो त्यो चाहिँ. Grant and Lee, a study in contrast. This you should not read. Now, Bharati Mukherjee, two way to belong in America. America मा बस्ने दुईटा तरिकाहरु. Two way to belong in America, written by Bharati Mukherjee. Who has book? Class? Book को सँग छ? Hello. Who is in front of the book right now? हेलो क्लास बोल न ल पढ्न थाल त माथि राइटरको पढ्नु पर्दैन आई विल एक्सप्लेन द्याट टुमरो जस्ट रिड द स्टार्ट रिडिङ
पेजमा भन्नु न भेटिनु
पेज नम्बर 7
This is a tale of two sisters from Calcutta, Meera and Bharati, who had lived in the United States for some 35 years and into foundation sites in the foreign rich over the status of immigrants. I am an American citizen and she is not. I am moved that thousands of long-term residents are finally taking the oath of citizenship. She is not. Meera arrived in Detroit in 1960 to study child psychology and preschool education. I follow her a year later to study creative writing at the University of Iowa. When we left India, we were almost identical in appearance and attitude. We dressed alike in saris. We expressed identical views on politics, social issues, love, and marriage in the same Calcutta conven- convention politics. Calcutta convent full accent. We would endure our 2 years in America, secure our degrees, then return to India to marry the girls of our father's choosing. Instead, Meera married an English student in 1962 who was getting his business administration degree at Wayne State University. They soon acquired the level certifications necessary for the green card of hassle-free residence and employment. Mira still lives in Detroit, works in the South Bend Maine school system, and has become nationally recognized for her contributions in the field of preschool education and parent-teacher relationships. After 36 years as a legal immigrant in this country, she clings passionately to her Indian citizenship and hopes to go home to India when she retires. In Iowa City in 1980, I married to fellow student and American of Canadian parentage. Because of the accidency of his not Dakota birth, I bypassed labor certification requirements and the race-related quota system that favored the applicant's country of origin over his or her merit. I was accepted for and even welcomed the emotional strength that came with marrying outside my ethnic community. In 33 years of marriage, we have lived in every part of North America. Depending on my father's selection, I was often for beauty, self-invention, blue jeans, and t-shirts and renowned since 3,000 years. Average of stars observant, peer culture, married a democracy family. My books have often been read as unapologetic and in some quarters over-enthusiastic text for cultural and psychological mobilization is the word I celebrate. Mira and I have stayed sisterly close by phone and in our regular Sunday morning conversations, we are unguardedly affectionate and only her and her only blood relative on this continent. We expect to see all others to the looming crisis of aging and ill health without being asked. Long before Vice President Gore's citizenship USA, Tribune had our polite arguments over the ethics of retaining an overseas citizenship while expecting the permanent protection and economic benefit that come with living and working in America. Like Wild West sisters, we never said what was really on our minds, but we probably pitied on one another. She for the lack of structure in my life, the erasure of intelligence, the absence of an unvarying discourse. I for the narrowness of her perspective, her involvement with the mythic depth or the superficial pop culture of the society. But now, with the depth of the superficial pop culture of the society, but now with the scapegoatings of aliens, documented or illegal, on the increase and the targeting of long-term legal immigrants like Mira for new scrutiny and new self-consciousness. She and I find ourselves unable to maintain the same polite description. We were always unacknowledged adversaries, and we are now more than ever sisters. Ma'am, ma'am,